following week, Daniel was at his second job, mopping the gleaming floors of a downtown office building. His back ached, his hands were cracked, but he kept going. Every extra dollar meant Emma could have shoes that fit and maybe a new coat before winter. He didn't notice the woman stepping out of the private elevator until their eyes met. It was her. The stranger from the subway. Evelyn froze mid-step. She had rehearsed what she would say if she saw him again. But the reality of him standing there in a janitor's uniform knocked the breath from her chest. Daniel's face shifted from confusion to realization, then embarrassment. "You," he muttered, gripping the mop tighter. "This is your building?" Evelyn nodded carefully. "Yes, I didn't expect to see you here." Daniel straightened his shoulders, trying to hide the sting of pride. "Look, if you're here to pay me back, I don't want charity. I just did what anyone should have done." But Evelyn's gaze was steady, her voice quiet. "No one does that anymore. Not like you did. That night you gave me something I couldn't buy with all the money in the world." Daniel frowned, not sure how to respond. Then a small voice piped up from the corner, Emma, who had been coloring quietly in the janitor's lounge. She skipped over and tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, is that the lady you helped? She looks like a princess." Evelyn's heart cracked open. For the first time in years, she laughed softly, kneeling down to Emma's level. "Hello, sweetheart. Your daddy saved me that night. Did you know he's a hero?" Emma's eyes lit up as she hugged her father's leg proudly. Daniel turned away, his throat tight, unsure if he was more embarrassed or touched. Days later, Evelyn couldn't stop thinking about them. She invited Daniel and Emma to her office, insisting it was just coffee. Daniel almost refused. His pride screamed at him not to step into her world, but Emma's excited plea, "Please, Daddy, she wants to see us," won him over. When they arrived, Evelyn had set a small table by the window overlooking the city. With hot cocoa and cookies waiting, Emma squealed with delight, rushing to the glass, while Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his worn jacket. "I don't belong here," he muttered. But Evelyn turned to him, her voice firm yet gentle. "You belong more than half the people I meet every day, because you have what they don't: honor, love, sacrifice." Daniel looked at her then, really looked. Beneath the elegance and wealth was a woman who seemed lonely. Someone who had everything except the one thing he gave freely: genuine care. Emma returned to the table, holding both their hands. Her little voice chimed innocently, "Can we be friends forever?" The words hung in the air like a promise. Evelyn felt her throat tighten, while Daniel blinked hard to hide the moisture in his eyes. For the first time in a long while, three people who thought they had nothing found they might just have everything. The subway air was thick with the smell of metal and rain-soaked coats. Daniel sat on a cracked bench. His little girl Emma nestled against his side, swinging her legs and clutching her stuffed bunny. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet, opening it like a man staring at an empty well. $10. That was all. His stomach tightened. That bill was supposed to buy bread and milk until payday, but Emma looked up at him with her trusting eyes humming happily, unaware that her father's entire world had shrunk to a single piece of paper money. Across the platform, a woman shifted uncomfortably. She wore a simple coat, but there was a grace about her posture that didn't match the weariness in her eyes. She clutched her purse with trembling fingers, then stood and walked toward him. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely above the rumble of an approaching train. I lost my wallet. I need enough for the fare home." Daniel blinked, his heart pounding. He looked at the $10 bill in his hand, then at his daughter, who was now tugging at his sleeve, whispering, "Daddy, the train's coming." Everything inside him screamed to hold on to that money, but the woman's voice carried something: shame, desperation, loneliness. He thought of how many times he had swallowed his pride for Emma's sake. Slowly, with a breath that felt like it drained the last of his strength, Daniel pressed the bill into her hand. "Take it," he said softly. "Get home safe." Her lips parted, her eyes wide with shock. "But this is too much." He shook his head, already turning toward the train as he lifted Emma into his arms. "Don't worry about it." The train roared past, but Evelyn stood frozen on the platform, the crumpled bill in her hand feeling heavier than gold. That night, Evelyn Hale sat in her penthouse suite overlooking the city skyline, but the glittering view brought no comfort. She tossed the $10 bill onto her marble counter, staring at it as if it held a secret she couldn't solve. Evelyn was one of the youngest CEOs in the country, her face often gracing financial magazines. Her wealth was staggering, her influence undeniable, but her heart felt like an empty room. People approached her every day asking for investments, favors, connections. Yet not one person had ever given her something without expecting more in return. Until today, that man, that father, he had given her everything he had with no hesitation, expecting nothing back. A man in worn-out shoes and a threadbare jacket had done what billionaires and board members never could, reminded her what kindness looked like. She couldn't let it go. The next morning, Evelyn ordered her driver to take her to the same subway station. She dressed plainly, tucking her hair beneath a scarf so she wouldn't be recognized. Hours passed before she saw him again. Daniel, carrying a grocery bag with only the bare essentials. Emma skipped beside him, holding his hand and laughing